Now let's take a look at question 3. This is where we connect the completed pro forma model to the dashboard using the provided linked cells. And we might even have to make a data table or add a chart based on some kind of image shown. We'll submit our completed model here and not insert or delete any rows, cells, or columns. So let's download the template. It looks similar to what we did in class the other day. A little bit different. So the first one says control sales growth with the scroll bar. That's like class. Linking the result to all 4 years of those model drivers. And we want to scroll sales from decreasing 10% to increasing 10% in small steps of 1 and large steps of 5. So the first thing we could do would be link that control to the correct cell. And I need to step, if I'm counting by 1, from minus 10 to 10, that's going to be 20. So I need at least 20 steps in here. I better go up to 20. And in small steps of 1, I can leave that. In large steps of 5, I'd better change that to 5. And so I can make 20 small steps of 1 or several small steps of 5 to get from 0 to 20. And I just need to reduce the top and bottom by 10. So I will say equals this minus 10. Let's test that and see if it works. Now that's already a percentage. So since I know I want to end up in a percentage, I'll just go ahead and divide that by 100. And this one, we don't want to be a percentage to start. Need to fix that on the practice file for you. But if I test that, it looks like I can get from minus 10 to plus 10. I can count by 1s or I can count by 5s. So that part's good. Now I just need to find the driver for sales growth, and it said link all 4 of them to that cell. So I'll say equals this and then hit F4 and control enter, and that will set them all to the 10. Let's just double check that if I change that down to 5, that they all went down to 5. Good. Now the second one says control COGS as a percent of sales with a spin button. Link the result to all 4 years of the model driver. And we're going to spin from 50 to 70 in steps of 2, showing the positive answer on the dashboard, but being sure to make that driver negative in our drivers down there. So again, we'll format that control and link it to COGS as a percent of sales. It says go from 50 to 70, so I could go from 0 to 20 and add 50, or I could just go from 50 to 70 in steps of 2. Seems straightforward enough. And if I do that, looks like these numbers are going where I want them to. I just need to convert them to a percentage by dividing by 100. Alt HP to make that percentage, and then double check that it maxes out at 70 and it bottoms out at 50. And it's in cell E5. So I'll find that driver and say equals minus E5 F4, control enter. And it changed them all to 50 because that's what we had in that cell. Okay, so far so good. Control effective tax rate with the option buttons on the dashboard and the data in the linked cells area. I need to, don't want to copy it anywhere. To right click on any one of those, format it, link it, and that's about all I can do there. And it says number 2 is checked. Let's double check these. Number 3, number 5. Very good. Now all we need to do is connect the tax rate. So tax rate, I don't think I worded that perfectly in the problem. So I could either connect this one. I could either do them like I did above, or I could connect this one, which is going to control all of them, so we'll just do it that way, equals a minus index. Minus because we know that the answers we want are coming in as positive, so we need to make them negative. And then we want to select from this array based on this index number. Oh, I thought, why did that go to 52.8? But that's because it was the all-time high tax rate. If I put it on the current, I would hope to see 21. Let's say compromise is 25. Yeah, negative 25. So I've got negatives here and negatives here. Same thing up here. I had negatives, negatives, looking good. Positive. So I think we've got steps 1 through 3 done correctly. Use these input cells on the dashboard to populate CapEx, debt, and stock changes in the model. For some reason, this confuses students when we talk about doing this, but when they think about, if I type in a number here, how do I make it show up down here? Well, that's extremely straightforward. I think I was supposed to delete those to make this clear. But let's just take these and say equals. We could do a formula and copy it, but it's much easier to say equals that one. Control Enter. And let's test them. 2, 4, or 3, 4, 5. Let's see if 2, 3, 4, 5 ended up down here. 2, 3, 4, 5. Sure did. Okay. So we don't need to leave any numbers in there. It won't hurt. And then the last thing to do is show average equity value per share. Average equity value per share as a function of exit multiple and cost of equity. Okay. Well, we could recognize that this is a data table. There's no other good way to get such a complex answer from these two input variables than to come down here and say average equity per share, and then build our data table. We could format these since we know that these are inputs and these are outputs. If that helps us think about which cells to select, we'll take off for formatting and then you'd know to select these cells. But I'm going to undo that and assume we don't need to do that because we just know how data tables work. And if we selected those and pulled up our data table, well, our row input is where these numbers are going. And that was our exit multiple. And our column input, I believe, was cost of equity. And so we're left with some things that don't look great. I should probably format that before I give it to you. Make it look like that. So it kind of tells us that our current value is 4673 and shows us if we used a lower multiple, it would pull those values down. If we used a higher multiple, it would pull them up. And if we used a lower cost of equity, it would actually make the values much better. A higher cost of equity, because we're discounting more, makes them worth much less. So we can see the sensitivity to both of those at the same time. And I believe that's all we're asked to do other than upload the file. So keep that one under 10 minutes and still have time to talk through it.